Okay, hi everyone, and welcome at this digital information event for the Comenius program. Yes, so today we will, this is the schedule for the information session. So we will start with the how and the what of the Comenius program. We will provide some information, and there will be time for some questions regarding the presentation. After that, we will invite our speakers for a Q&A, Edwin and Tim. And they are experts for the Comenius program, so they have experience with the assessment committee, but also as a fellow themselves. And then finally, there is some more time for questions and a wrap up. If you have any questions already during the presentation, you can just post them in the chat and my colleagues will answer them right away. And we will record this presentation and we will upload it somewhere next week on our website, so you can rewatch it in case you missed something. So let's start with a short introduction because we are with quite a big team. Alison, can I ask you to introduce yourself first?
Yes, thank you very much, Anna. Hello, everyone. My name is Alison Luger. I am the Secretary of the Teaching Fellows, and I'm also the coordinator of the Comenius program for the higher education.
Thank you. Nadine?
Hello. I am Nadine Reuver, and I am the Secretary of the Leadership Fellows.
Yes, thank you, Nadine. Unfortunately, Quincy, Didi, and Anouk aren't here today, but they are also, Quincy and Didi are program assistants, and Anouk will also be secretary for the teaching fellows. And myself, Anna, I am the secretary for senior fellows. So the Comenius program was first issued in 2017 under the Minister of Education, Jet Bussemaker, and the program is financed from the study loan system, which is the budget that was freed up as a result of converting the former student grants into loans. And the Ministry of Education has the ambition to make these funds flow back into Dutch higher education. And the Comenius program is one of the instruments which aims to realize this. The goal of the program is twofold. So first, its goal is to improve the quality of Dutch higher education by giving teachers the opportunity to implement innovations in their own education. And secondly, its goal is to create recognition and appreciation for education. So this means that we grant a prestigious fellowship to teachers who can further develop themselves through their projects. And by admitting the fellows to the Comenius network, we give them the opportunity to share their knowledge and expertise and learn from each other and together to shape the field of innovative higher education. So what kind of grants are available? Well, they distinguish themselves by the sum of grant money that is awarded and the impact that we expect from the projects. So for teaching fellows, we offer 40 grants at 50K, and the aim is to have an impact on course level. For senior fellows, there are 22 grants at 100K. And we expect the programs to have an impact on faculty level. And for leadership fellow, we expect the projects to have an impact on institutional level or even across institutions. As you can see, the grants are equally distributed between university and University of Applied Sciences, and therefore the two sectors do not compete with each other. And then for teaching and senior, the funds are also distributed across 4 themes. What's also important is that you can apply as a duo. And that means that if you get awarded a grant, then you both will become part of the Comenius network. So, like I said before, for teaching and senior, there are 4 teams, and these teams are based on the knowledge agenda for higher education. And they are also written in our call for proposals. I will go by them quickly, but if you are interested in reading more about them, you can look for it in the knowledge agenda. So the first theme is education forms of the future. And projects within this theme focus on the question of how new forms of education can be developed and implemented successfully so that students will benefit from it. You can think about, for example, ChatGPT, which can be a challenge in education, but it can also be used in our benefit. And well, projects within this theme should really be focusing on that, and they can, for example, focus on student-driven education, learning communities, or challenge-based learning. The second theme is student well-being, and projects within this theme focus on contributing to student well-being so that their study time is improved, and this would also lead to improved learning results and can also affect the later career of the student. You can think of projects that improve, for example, the connection of students to their study, or that strengthen the resilience of students. The third theme, societal issues, focuses on the question of how students can be prepared for and contribute to the big societal issues of the future. So you can think of projects that focus on learning important competencies, or projects that focus on transdisciplinary collaboration with other students or with societal partners, for example. And then we have the open team. And within this team, it's possible to choose a broad variety of topics, but these topics should contribute to the innovation and the improvement of higher education. And projects within the open team should also arise from the curiosity of the professor. So if you're writing a proposal for the teaching or the senior fellowship, you should choose one of the 4 themes that your proposal suits best. And for the leadership fellow, there is of course no theme, but the project should align with the strategic plan of the institute, and it should really align with its ambition to profile itself nationally and internationally in the area. So for the assessment criteria, you can see here that the weight is a little bit divided between the 4 criteria. And as you can see, the weight of the criteria matches the main goals of the program, namely improving the quality of higher education by enabling teachers to implement innovations, and also to create more recognition for the passionate teachers that make this education possible. So the first criteria, innovative nature of the project, is really about the extent to which the project seeks to implement an innovative solution or an ambitious improvement, and the extent to which this proposed solution differs from initiatives in other institutions. The second criteria, the expected results of the project, is really about the problem analysis, whether or not it's convincingly explained, about the intended outputs, such as the learning outcomes and whether they are clearly defined. And for example, also if the applicant has substantiated how the project could be of value for other education professionals. The third criteria, quality of the project plan, is really about the activities and the methods and the planning, whether or not they are clearly defined in the project plan. It's also about the project team and their expertise, and whether or not their roles and division of tasks are clearly described. And then finally, we have the educational profile. This really looks at whether or not the applicant matches the profile of a fellow, and whether or not the professional statement shows how the Comenius grant and the membership to the Comenius network can contribute to the applicant's ambitions and teaching career, for example. So these criteria will be assessed by an assessment committee, and we have 4 types of committee members, and they are, well, it's a broad committee across disciplines and sectors. So we have the team-related expertise, at least for the teaching and the senior fellow committees. And this team-related expertise is a higher education professional who incorporates research and practice on this theme in their own work and, well, connects this to the theme. Then we have the educational researcher or educationalist, and this person or these people are in state to are able to make sure that the theoretical embedding can be assessed and the plan for evaluation, for example. Then we have the experts in educational innovation projects, and they are experts from the field, and they are able to assess the project plan, the project team, and is also able to assess whether or not the project is innovative. So it's really the practical expertise. And then finally, also very important, we have the students, and the student really looks at the student perspective in the proposal. Yes, thank you. So it's also possible to join an assessment committee also when writing your own proposal. This can, for example, be interesting if you are interested in gaining inspiration by looking at other proposals and just, see what other, people are doing within this field. It's also interesting to get to know Comenius from the inside and learn more about our procedures and the process around it. And you will also meet like-minded people. So the people that join you in the committee are all from the same field. So that can be very interesting as well. It is possible to write a proposal and to join an assessment committee in the same year, but you will do so for different rounds. So if you are writing a proposal for a teaching fellow, then it would be possible to join the committee for a senior fellow, for example, or the other way around. So if you are interested, you can sign up by mailing to comenius@nro.nl, and we will provide you with some more information. It is important that committee members do have to speak Dutch and speak and understand Dutch well enough to be able to assess Dutch project proposals as well. I will give the word to Nadine. And we'll switch laptops.
Thank you. So for the next part, I will explain the procedure of the Comenius program. So here you see an overview of the procedure, and you see the different phases that we have. And as you can tell, it's not always applicable to all 3 of the rounds. So I will explain per phase what it entails and what kind of to what rounds it's applicable. In this overview, you also see deadlines. And the call for proposals have already been published, so these deadlines are official. So it's great to see here as well, I think. And then I'll start with the first phase, which is the letter of intent. And you see it's applicable to all 3 of the rounds, and the deadlines are in the beginning of September. So the letter of intent, why do we have it? It's something that is mandatory, and for us it gives an indication of the maximum amount of applications that we will receive. So with this, we know how many committee members we will need to search to be able to assess all the applications. And for leadership, we also use the letter of intent to start searching for referees. And because senior and leadership have a limit of submission, we can also check here if we have received too many applications from a certain faculty or an institution. And if we have, we can inform the applicants about this. And we also share the number with applicants, so it also gives a bit of information on the probability. So that's why we have the letter of intent. And it's something that you have to submit directly in Isaac, our online system. So there's no separate form for this. It's just 2 fields in the system that you need to fill in with the title and a summary. For teaching and for senior, you also need to fill in which theme you want to apply in. And it's not possible to change this after the letter of intent. So you need to think about this when you want to submit the letter of intent already. Let's see. For all 3 rounds, the deadlines are in September. And then we have the following phase, which is the preliminary application. And these are in October. The preliminary application is only applicable to the teaching and senior round, and it's sort of like a pitch of your project, so you can convince the committee of the innovative nature and the expected results of the project. So they're based on criteria 1 and 2. And during the preliminary assessment meeting, they will discuss every preliminary application. And for senior fellows, they also look at the 4th criteria, which is the educational profile of the applicant. So during this meeting, the committee assesses all the preliminary applications and they will discuss it. And they will draw up a recommendation for the applicant whether or not to develop the proposal into a full application. She indicates whether she thinks that the proposal has a chance of being awarded the grant. But it is an advice that they give, so it's not binding. So even if you have received a negative advice, you can still choose to work it out as a full application. The aim of this phase, however, is to reduce the workload, as it takes a lot of time for applicants to write a full proposal, and it also takes a lot of time for assessment committee to view all these proposals. So that's why we have this step for the teaching and senior rounds. For the leadership round, there's a limit of 1 proposal per institution, so this is not needed for that round. Yeah, so that's the preliminary application. And then we move on to the full application. And the deadlines are in January for teaching and senior. And for leadership, it's earlier because we don't have the preliminary application there. So it's already in October. So with the full proposal, the assessment will be based on all the criteria. So in this phase, for teaching fellow, it's new to include the educational profile of the applicants. And for teaching and senior, the 3rd criteria is new, which is the quality of the project plan. So with the full proposal, we also need information on the plan of approach, the composition of the team, the evaluation, the risk analysis, the dissemination, and we also want to receive a budget. And with the budget, you can also include a letter of intent if you have co-funding. So we need all this information for all 3 of the rounds for the full application. So when we receive everything, we can start preparing for the next phase for the senior and leadership round, which is the rebuttal. This is something that's not applicable to the teaching rounds. And to be able to ask applicants to write a rebuttal, we need preliminary advices. So we ask some of the committee members to write a preliminary assessment for the proposals. And for leadership, we also ask referees to look at the proposals and write a report. And based on these documents, we will ask the applicants to write a rebuttal. So then in March for senior and for leadership, it's in February, we will ask the applicants to write their rebuttal. And the rebuttal is used to clarify or to answer questions from the committee. And it's also a possibility to correct any factual errors if they are mentioned in the preliminary advices. And it's 5 working days to be able to write the rebuttal. For senior, you see here the steps, so preliminary advices and then the rebuttal, and it's a word limit of 1,000 words. For leadership, you have referee, preliminary advices, and then the rebuttal, and the word limit is 1,500 words. When we receive the rebuttals, we will include them in the assessment of the proposals. And for leadership, it's used to select which applicants will be invited for an interview. And during the interview, applicants are able to answer questions again. So it's also a form of a rebuttal. And then we have the assessment meetings, and for leadership, the interview selection meeting. And it will be in March 2025. And to prepare for the meeting, the assessment, all applicants will be discussed during this meeting and scored individually by all the committee members that are present during this meeting. They give a score on each criteria, and this score leads to a qualification, which goes from insufficient to good, very good, and excellent. Insufficient is the score of 9, and excellent is a score of 1. This is a standard NWO scale, and it's used to encourage the use of the entire scale, and to be able to have more differentiations from the committee members. And all the applicants need to receive a score of good on all the criteria to be eligible for funding. Then the average scores are used to create a ranking, and the ranking forms the basis of the committee advice. And as mentioned before, the leadership fellows have an interview selection. So after the interviews, which are a maximum of 4 applicants per sector, and after the interview, their committee members score again, and based on that ranking, the advice forms from the committee. So when we have had the meetings, we have the interview in April of the leadership, and after that we have gone through every phase, and it's finally at the end, which is the decision. This will be in May 2025. So when we have had the meetings, we will make a report, and in this report, it's mentioned which committee members were attending and what procedure has been followed. Per application, we also have a score and the motivation of the committee's advice. And this advice will be sent to the Program Committee Higher Education, and they will make the decision about the grants. And when they have made the decision, we will communicate this as soon as possible to all the applicants, and this will be in May 2025. So when we have awarded funding to some applicants, these applicants will be invited to the Comenius network as well. And the Comenius network is a network which aims to bring together innovators in higher education. And they have 2 goals. The first goal is to exchange knowledge. It brings together inspiring and support of educational innovators by various events. So they have the Comenius Festival, which is at the end of this month as well. You can also sign up if you're not a member of the Comenius network. They also have the solution rooms and the deep dive. And for their second goal, they have vision forming. So they develop and convey perspective on innovative teachers. And the basis of the Comenius network is 5 circles, which are learning communities, and they reflect both goals. So the central themes that they discuss are inclusion, transdisciplinary collaboration, sustainable teaching, student development, and embedding change. There's also more information on the website. You see the link here on the slide. And then we have some tips as well. If you're thinking about submitting an application, it's a good idea to contact your own institution subsidy advisor. They can have an inventarization of which teachers want to apply for the Comenius program. And this is also very handy for the selection of the senior and the leadership applicants because they have a limit. So do contact them if you're thinking about this. They can also give more tips and guidance for you. From the NRO bureau, we do not give consensual, advice for the project itself. So yeah, the subsidy advisor is good for tips and guidance as well. We do have some knowledge clips. So in the link on the slide, you see 7 clips about how to write a Comenius grant application. So do check these videos out. It's also good to follow us on our website, on LinkedIn, Twitter, or to subscribe to our newsletter to be able to see if we have any news or any new information. So do follow us as well. And then we have the questions. You can always contact us via this mail address, so comenius.nro.nl. Yeah, so if you have any questions, please contact us. And we also have the experts present today, and I think it will be very valuable to ask questions to them as well. And for this part, I will give the floor to Alison.
Thank you very much, Nadina. Thank you both for the presentation so far, very informative. So now it is time that we're going to talk a bit with our 2 experts to ask them about their experience with the Comenius program. One of our speakers let me know that he would be a bit later. I'm hoping to expect him any minute right now. Maybe while we give him an extra minute or 2 before he arrives, if there are any questions that anyone already has concerning the presentation this far, please feel free to ask. Maybe we can answer a few questions while we wait. In case there's no any burning questions, well, that's a good sign. That means that it was clear up till now. Then maybe we can just slowly start with our first expert that arrived, and then we'll hope that our other expert, Tim, will arrive soon. Edwin, I saw that you were already available. Thank you so much for coming today and to help all our future applicants getting a good idea how your experience was. Would you mind maybe giving yourself a short introduction about your background?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to join this session and to hopefully inspire you a bit in thinking about your applications. I work at Radboud University in Nijmegen, in the east of the Netherlands, at the Faculty of Arts, where I'm Professor of Cultural Education. So my main field of research and teaching is cultural education, but I'm also strongly involved in, say, the societal relevance of higher education. And I received a Comenius senior grant in 2018, I think, on a project doing just that, developing think tanks for our bachelor students in the Faculty of Arts, where they work with societal partners. And after that was finished, I approached the board of a university if I could be the one to submit a leadership fellowship, and they allowed it, and it was rejected. And then I was allowed to do it again 2 years later, and then I received it, and I'm still working on that project, which is across all of Radboud University and involving ArtEZ, University of the Arts, working on higher education for sustainability. So that for a brief introduction.
Thank you very much, Edwin. And nice to hear that you have such a long-standing connection with the Comenius program starting in 2018. It's been a while, so and also congratulations on getting your grants, of course. So I guess the first time has been a while already, but can you tell us something about how did you get in connection with Comenius? Where did you hear from it? Was it through your institution or elsewhere?
I think I saw it in the NRO newsletter because I was already subscribed to that because NRO subsidizes all kinds of educational research. I think that was how I got to it. Yeah.
Okay, and for when you were preparing your proposal, how was it received within your institution? Did you receive help? Did you look for help, or could you describe the initial process after you saw it in the newsletter for the first time?
Yeah, especially because I started off as at the middle tier as a senior fellow, then you have to have approval from your faculty board. So I approached my dean with the idea to sketch out roughly what I was thinking about, and she was immediately very enthusiastic. And the entire faculty was very supportive in preparing the proposal, and I would really recommend everybody, even if you're just preparing a teaching fellowship, which is also can be very impactful, as I've seen with colleagues at my university. I would advise everybody to approach either their professors or the chairs of their department to discuss how it could be embedded, but also to gain support, because I've also been a committee member for the senior fellowships twice now, and you can really tell when an application is aligned with what an institution is working on, if it fits in the program or in the programs of the faculty or the university vision, and it proves it. It makes it stronger, and it helps us as a committee also to be confident that when you've finished your project, then it will be sustained in the future in the teaching of your institution. And it's always good to have more impact than just your own ideas. It simply makes your proposal better.
Yes, thank you, Edwin. I hear your experience aligns a lot with Tuesday. We had another meeting for the Dutch speakers, and they also carried your message of early on starting with finding your project team, communicating it within your institution, and finding if indeed the project is carried by people there. And that this is one point that is good to start on very early. I hear you say as well. Meanwhile, our other expert has arrived. Thank you very much, Tim Itzenga, for being here today. I hope you don't mind that I already had Edwin giving himself a short introduction to our audience today. So could you maybe please, if you don't mind jumping into this right away, give yourself a short introduction to our audience.
Okay, sure. My name is Tim Itzenga. I work at the University of Applied Sciences, Utrecht. And already, I think Edwin mentioned that he took part in two teaching fellows, but senior fellow committees, I believe. Okay, I have taken part in one senior fellow committee, and I have a teaching fellow, applied for a teaching fellow and got that granted. And yeah, what Edwin says, it helps when you can embed your idea in the vision of the institute, university. Yeah. Definitely helps.
Great to hear. So you recognize what Edwin's experience is with the early on the project team. So that when you heard first from Comenius, that were your first steps as well to set it up? How would you describe the first steps of the process?
Quite similar. I work at a institute for design and engineering. at a program electrical engineering, and okay, I had some mathematical ideas on how to teach math, and then I came across the Comenius grant, and I figured, oh, can I use the grant to develop the ideas, because my opleidingsmanager, he didn't have the money to do that, and for these kind of grants, I made contact with a research group on mathematical education, and that definitely helped in forming my ideas. And I think another activity that was arranged by NRO that really helps were writing sessions, because those really helped. Because I attended one of those writing sessions, and the trainers constantly they kept on asking me questions. Okay, you say this. What do you mean? What do you mean by this? How do you envision that? At the end of the day, I was kind of fed up with them, but it definitely helped.
Well, I'm glad to hear that in the
Yeah.
end it was useful, and that it's also good to ask for this kind of external help, which to help writing these kind of applications from your team, and how these services are often provided. So Edwin, once you were busy setting up your initial project team, you had to carry out, then the next step would have been, I suppose, writing the application. How was your experience during the writing process and the submission process?
Well, apart from, say, the hard work of thinking about it and making it coherent, the process itself, say on the administrative level, is really easy and transparent. It's really clear which steps you have to take, what you have to fill out. You have to always, that's the same for every kind of application, to balance what you put under which heading, because each heading has a word limit. But that was fairly easy, I think. What I do see in the applications that I've seen as a committee member is that sometimes people struggle with what to put in their personal profile, even though that is 1/3 of the evaluation of your proposal. So that's something you really have to pay attention to. You have to show, to give a feeling of what kind of educator you are, what kind of educational professional you want to become through this project, and what kind of vision on education you have. And sometimes you see more or less a narrative CV, and that's not always enough, basically. So I think that's what some people find hard to put into words. But it has a lot of weight. So
yeah, it's indeed a section that is often overlooked, but just as crucial to get that clear on paper. And indeed, not like sometimes people find it easier to write down the project plan, but then to write down the whole vision around it, that is a different kind of writing. Yes. And Tim, how did you experience for you the writing process and the submission process? Do you recognize this? How did it go for you?
Well, for considering the application process, there's one pitfall, at least for me, there was a pitfall that I want to mention. If you write a proposal and you submit it to NRO, then you have to select a theme at which you want to apply your idea. And the first time I applied for the teaching fellow, in my mind, what I wanted to do exactly fitted one of the themes I selected. But the committee thought otherwise. So I was just kicked out of the theme, and I asked politely, can I apply for another theme? Gates closed. So obviously the next year I thought twice, and I asked, okay, this is my idea. To your opinion, does it fit in this theme? I asked the Comenius committee. So second time I was more prepared, and So before you submit your idea within one of the themes, check whether it actually fits within the themes.
Yeah, that's it is indeed true. That's one of the things that people are not allowed to change throughout the submission process. Is indeed the themes that has to be thought out beforehand. Sometimes people try not just because the theme, but then they see the amount of submissions and they try to strategically submit it with a theme with less submissions. So for this reason, also we are indeed that's one of the things that we are strict. People are allowed to change the content, the writing, the summary, and everything. But indeed, the themes and the sector under which that's been submitted that is not allowed to change. So it is very good to have that clear in mind before submitting. Indeed.
Yeah, that was my pitfall.
Yes. Yeah, that's a very good point indeed to keep in mind.
And another thing about submission is that one I think the most important of a Comenius grant is the innovative idea, innovative concept. Where if it's innovative enough, that's
yes,
very important.
Yeah, the innovation is indeed one of the points that the committee, your experience as committee member, you'll have probably also experienced that how new it is compared to things that already exist elsewhere is a very important criteria. Yeah. And Edwin, after you got your not just one but your two Comenius grants, how did then the ball started rolling? Like after the day you got your the letter that you got it after celebrating, then how did everything get together for your project?
Well, the first project I sort of just intuitively started asking people for help and advice and fleshing out the project proposal, starting to develop stuff. And I think in this first project, even though it was successful, I made two mistakes, I would say. The first is that I did not, this only goes for the senior and the leadership fellowship, but I had not accounted for a project assistant in my budget. And now in the leadership I have, because there's a lot of networking you have to do. There's a lot of people you have to talk to. There's going to be a flood of emails coming your way. And even if you have a student assistant or a secretary that you can give some extra hours who can then manage your agenda and your emails, that really is that relieves a lot of your burden. And the second thing is more content or related, that in the first project I only started involving students in a later phase. And what I've discovered, one of the conclusions of that project is that it's better to innovate with students than about students. And so in the leadership project, what we did is to start with a group of students from day one, to involve them, and that only makes your project a lot better. So that's one thing. Another thing that I was really happy to notice is that one of the aims that was mentioned in the introduction is the position of teachers and teaching innovators in higher education institutions, which is even more of a problem in research universities. I was really rewarded. People were really happy. Flowers, ceremonies, but congratulations. It does help your career, and it does affirm that education is core business, which it wasn't recognized as much before the beginning of the program, but the program really helped. So if this is really an opportunity, if you're at a research university and actually your heart is more in education than in research, this can really benefit your position, your career, and well, the joy of work, basically. Yeah.
So it's great to hear, and great that it was such a positive experience and also a very learning experience. It sounds like. Thank you very much. And then Tim, same question for you then. How did that go for you after you got the letter that the subsidy had been granted?
First I was pretty honored to receive a letter from Robert Dijkgraaf. That was nice. And yeah, I started working on the grant, and there was one hiccup that I encountered in the project, in the path towards writing the grant. I agreed with one of the study programs that they wanted to participate. So I had like a population of students that I could work with. But then the grant was awarded, and I went back to them and said, "Oh, can I?" And I said, well, we had another thought about it, and we have some changes made, and so no, we're not participating anymore. Oh crap! I lost my student population, and that also meant that okay, so now I have to find a new student population. Takes more time, so I asked the Comenius Bureau, yeah, can I? This is the reason this happened. Can I, for example, extend my period with 6 months or so? And no, they were quite happy to oblige, and they extended the period with 6 months. So that was kind of, yeah, I was very happy with that. So they were very, very flexible in that.
I hear that, of course.
Anything else? Sorry, I'm lost for words now.
And looking back at the whole process, do you have any tips or advice to our applicants based on your experience writing and submitting the proposal?
No, but I think it's the same for other grant applications. Talk to people. Yeah. Don't do everything on your own. Talk to people.
That's a very, very clear, very concrete advice indeed. You're not alone in this.
Yeah. Because if you bounce your ideas on someone else, then the thing that you get back can make your idea more concrete. And that also helps you in selling your idea to a committee.
Yeah. Yes. And Edwin, do you have, based on your experience during the application and the writing process, do you have any advice, any tips that you could give to our future applicants?
Well, first of all, Tim is right. Talk to people. A second thing, which goes for all kinds of applications, it works best if you apply for something that you would be doing anyway, maybe given time and money, but not try to think of something that sounds fashionable, but that you don't have any experience with, because it's more convincing, but also because it makes it it fits better in what you're working on in practice. So for finding a real problem in something you're struggling with in your everyday teaching, and develop that into an ambition that you put into the project is I think one of the most important points. And the second is the innovative part. Tim also mentioned that that's really important, and in order to show how innovative it is, have a good look around among the previous Comenius laureates, so earlier projects, because a lot of things have been done, and you can find inspiration there, but you could also see, okay, this has been done. That wouldn't work, but you can also say, well, this has been done in, say, math education, but now I want to do it in geography education. So that is innovative for geography education, right? And there's hardly anything that hasn't been researched in educational research worldwide. So look into that, because that sharpens your ideas, and it brings your application much further. And it also increases your chances in the committee, because they sometimes do know the research on your field.
Thank you. And so Edwin, once you were, you had granted your Comenius funding, you were also a member then of the Comenius network. Have you ever attended any of their sessions, or have you ever had any good experience with the Comenius network?
Yeah, a lot. I go to the festival annually. I've been to the deep dive twice, I think. I'm a member of a circle, and it's really, really inspirational. Especially the first time that I went to the Comenius festival, it was like a warm bath. There was all of these people who also share an enthusiasm for education, who have wonderful ideas, sometimes related to yours, sometimes things you've never thought of before. The mix at first between universities of applied sciences and research universities, which has now been added on with the MBO, the professional educational schools in the Netherlands, really works because everybody has their own specialization, and these conversations are inspirational. They help your project as well, and you build a network of people that share the same kind of passion and drive. So yeah, once you get it, do participate in these activities, depending on the time you have available. But the Comenius Festival is just one day. Everybody could spare one day, I would say, because it's really great.
Like that's great to hear, and looking forward to seeing you again this year at the Comenius Festival. That's great. Tim, what about you? Have you also had a good experience with the Comenius network?
I have limited experience. And you mentioned the deep dive, Etienne. I'm going to be there next October. I've subscribed to the deep dive there, so that's going to be a new experience. But I have attended two meetings from the Comenius alumni network. And my experience was, in both cases, it was positive. And the reason why it was positive is that I met I met people that had the same mindset. And that's something that my experience here at the University of Applied Sciences Utrecht is, well, they're all educators, but they're not innovative, not all innovative educators. They just do what they need to do, and that's it. And that was kind of frustrating. I mean, with the Comenius network, yeah, you met similar people that have similar experience, similar drives, and that was, this is nice. Very cool. Yeah.
That's great to hear, and great to hear that being able to be part of such a network is such a valuable experience of like-minded people.
Yeah, it gives you a platform to share your ideas or your experiences, and then someone that you shared with says, "Yeah, I have the same."
I can imagine the shared experience there. Thank you. And then finally, well, luckily, you both also have experience, not just as applicants, but also as committee members. And I can imagine that gives a whole different experience and perspective as well on the grant process. So, Edwin, from the perspective of a committee member, can you give any insights what that experience gave you that the applicants might know as a bit of insider information?
Yeah. Well, first of all, maybe it's good to emphasize that these are really serious meetings. Not that it's not a good atmosphere, but I really like it that all committee members take their role seriously and read the applications really thoroughly. One thing that you sometimes find is that some of the applications, how to put that, you have to dig deep to find the sub-criteria. So sometimes it sounds really convincing, and for instance, in a senior fellowship, it has to have an impact on a faculty level. And then you start wondering as a committee member, okay, so what really is the impact that this is going to have? And then you have to dig and find references to how many students are being reached with this project, how many programs within the faculty are participating. And sometimes at the end, you discover that it's a group of 6 honor students. That doesn't feel really faculty-wide. So sometimes that's hidden. So that's one thing you should really be aware of, that will be more of a teaching fellowship kind of application in some cases at least. But if you make these kinds of aspects, and you can just look through the criteria, make them explicit. You have to have a very definite list of things that we have to judge you on. So we have to grade everything. It's like, you know, what you want to ask your students. If you ask them to write a paper and say, okay, I'm looking at grammar, I'm looking at method, I'm looking at theory, and then they don't mention method. Even though you know that they have used a research method, but you can't grade it if it's not there. So basically that, be a student, a good student. In that sense.
Yeah, it's true that it cannot emphasize enough indeed, like the applications are judged quite exactly by the 4 criteria, and that in the end will determine the ranking. So it can be a great application, but if it scores poorly on any of the criteria, that will be reflected in the final score. That's true. And Tim, how was your experience as a committee member for Comenius program?
I think what Evelyn mentioned is that as a committee member, you start looking for the criteria in an application, and that also gives you another perspective if you want to gonna write an application of yourselves, because now you this is like a sales pitch for being part of a committee. You see it from the eyes of the committee member. That also helps you in writing a grant yourselves, because you instead of writing for something that you think that the committee member wants to see, you write for something that you know the committee member wants to see, because you have your own experience in that.
Yeah,
So,
I can imagine that having had to dig through the applications to find the criteria allows you to implement them yourself as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine that. Yes.
And in the application round that was part of the committee member, there was also one experience. So as a committee member, we have a number of grant applications, and we like grade them based on how they conform the criteria. But there was one application that was on the top of the list of all the committee members, and I think I know why, because that application was kind of definitely written from the heart. It was really clear what the person wanted, why she wanted. It was kind of a personal statement, and that was it all matched. So I think that's what Edwin already mentioned earlier. Write about something that is part of your work that you're going to do anyway, because you want to, not because it's a fancy topic, or it might be. That also helps in. I think that intuitively that helps in the writing style, and that's it works.
Yep.
It worked for this person. It worked because all committee members were like, okay, this one's gonna be on top.
Yeah, that it comes from a place of passion for the work, and that it shows.
Yeah.
That's great, and great that also to be able to transfer that onto paper. Of course, that's also an amazing skill.
That's most a lot of times the difficulty, and that also helps if you have a team of person around you that can help you with rewriting the application. But,
Thank you a lot, Tim, again for your inspiring answer. So now we've kind of, I think, discussed all the major aspects of the application process. As an open question to both you and Edwin and Tim, are there any remaining points or any tips that haven't been mentioned yet to our applicants that you would still like to convey to them? Also keeping in mind that there might be people in our event today for this might be the first time writing such an application. So any general tips could also be very welcome, of course.
Maybe ask around in your institution whether there are people who have had a Comenius grant, and or if they're not in your institution or you don't know them, wider in your network. Ask to read their application as a source of inspiration. Ask them to give feedback on your application. That is something that works, and I know that in several cities there is a local Comenius network of people who have received the grant. We have one in Nijmegen for Radboud University and Han University of Applied Sciences. Doesn't really run smoothly, but I think we're easily findable, also via the Comenius Network website. And I think that would really help you.
That's great to hear.
Another
Tim, do you have
thing,
any
perhaps,
last?
a starting point for writing a grant. At least that's what helps for me. Try to write the idea or what you want to do on half a piece of paper or something, or half an A4. Just try to say, can I write this in let's say 300 words or something?
Yeah, just
as a
to
starting point, and
to get
from
a clear idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also something that you can share with other people that you want to be part of your team, or that you want to ask help. So then they don't have to read the complete application. It's just 300 words. Okay, I can do that.
That's a very smart practical tip as well, indeed, to have something handy to share with your colleagues. So those are my questions for you, but it could be that maybe someone from the audience would like to ask one of our experts any question. So if they want to ask in the chat, but if want, you can also raise. And I see that someone already raises their hand. Maxine, would you like to ask our experts a question?
I actually have 3 questions, but they're not necessarily for the experts, if you don't mind. But I think they're all quite quick. The question for the expert. So Tim, you talked about checking if the theme was right, and that you approached the committee beforehand. So I just wonder, did I understand that correctly? Is that right? And when should we do it?
Before, at least before you hand in the application. I don't think you can contact the committee directly, but perhaps ask Alison if she can.
Maybe I can answer this question if you don't mind. Yeah. So no, the committee members are not known until far after the results have been communicated. Also, to make sure that they won't be approached by anyone and is in a fair process. We can always ask questions if you want anyone to discuss with or Claire. However, we cannot give any concrete advice on which theme to submit it under, because we are also not the experts on your own proposal. We do not read the proposals ourselves. So while we can always help you to think, we cannot give any concrete advice about on which theme to submit. So that will have to come from you. However, as the advice, you are free to, of course, contact your colleagues or other people in the institution to ask advice on this kind of topic. However, while we can help you with any other question to tell you under which theme to submit, that's sadly not something we're not able to do for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So my other questions were just quick, really. One was, are you unlikely to be successful with a senior fellowship application if you've never done a teaching fellowship application, or is it really not seen in that light? And then the second question was about internationalization and all of the pressure against English language programs. So is that going to affect anything at all in terms of the assessment that you are more or less likely to be successful, depending on whether you're looking at English language programs or Dutch language programs?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, whether or not you have received a previous Comenius grant is not taken into consideration. The vast majority of the applicants, what I see, have not before submitted under a lower tier and are going through. I can imagine that it might help you the writing process as you've done it previously. But other than that, it's not taken into consideration at all. So you can submit on whatever tier is suitable for your current position and your experience without having to worry about that. The second is not a criteria that is being looked at. So if you look at the criteria, whether or not it's about English or Dutch education is not included in any of the sub-criteria and is not something that it will be judged against. So, and also very much hoping that our new government will not do anything about that, but the current Comenius program as it is does not take that into consideration. Are there any other questions for our experts or anyone else? Yes, Zainab?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I have also quick questions, I think. One is just a question of clarification. So, because you mentioned for senior fellow and the leadership grant, there can only be one submission per faculty, if I understood that correct.
Yes.
Does it apply for the teacher fellowship?
No. So the teaching fellowship, it's people are free to apply, regardless of the amount of institution or faculty.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Check. So then this is a question for the speakers, Edwin and hi Edwin and Tim. So the first one is, I know it's very personal, but just to have a feeling of it. How much time did you spend writing for the grant approximately? And the second is, when you got the grant, like how did you schedule that in with your work? Did you fund yourself full time, or can you do it part? Like, how does that work?
To answer the last question, I have a day and a half a week currently. You have to find a balance, because people are most expensive part of most of the projects. So if you fund yourself full time, then you're basically out of money, and then you have to do all the work. And I would suggest using a team and giving a little money to more people, a couple of hours to more people. And the first question was, sorry.
Yeah, how much time did you spend for the application to write it, to work on it?
Yeah.
I understand it's very tricky to answer, but
Well, quite a lot, really, to be honest.
I agree.
And given the moments of the deadlines, you can't go on very long holidays during Christmas or summer holidays. It's not as intense as say the larger NWO grants or a Horizon application. Of course, it's shorter than that. It's more concise. But I don't know how many hours, but it took me quite some time, weeks.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for me that's also similar. The couple of weeks, and I don't know. I haven't logged the time. But for when I was awarded, I spent about 1 day a week on the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your question, Zainab. I see that we have another raised hand from Kristen. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I asked it in the chat as well. I'm wondering about the difference between teaching fellow and senior fellow, and I'm trying to decide which to go for, apart from professional level, but scope of project. And the faculty-wide, I find very few initiatives that are just bought on faculty-wide. So I'm trying to imagine how to persuade, 3 other programs to do my innovation before I have funding. And so I'm wondering in practice and applications, if the experts would have any tips about what this looks like faculty-wide. I heard number of students impacted as one suggestion, but what you would look for in selection criteria when you're thinking, is this a faculty-wide project or not? Thank you.
For a teaching fellow, it is meant like innovating a course. And if you do faculty-wide, perhaps Edwin, you have more experience in that.
Yeah, for my senior fellowship, the output was a think tank for all third-year bachelor students of all of our 10 BA programs. I haven't come across an application that was that large so far, so that I think that will be a max. But it would have to transcend one program at least. What you often see in applications that people say, well, we'll pilot it with one program and then upscale in 3 other or 4 other programs within the faculty. So it would be good to check with your director of education or your vice dean or whoever is in charge of your faculty whether they would be willing to support you, because that, well, as Jim just said, you can have a wonderful plan and then the program could say, nah, we don't feel like it. So if you have a dean that says, no, you have to, then you can be confident that you can actually write that in your application. My dean approves, and we will upscale this into several programs in the end.
Thank you very much. And also the rewarded proposals can be found online, so you can always read through a few teaching and senior proposals, maybe to give an idea of what kind of scope they're using themselves, if you want some inspiration as well from the previous applicants. The proposals can all be found online. Are there any other questions remaining? See any questions right now? If there are any other questions also about the procedure, not for the speakers, then we are available here. And otherwise, I think that we can slowly at least thank our speakers, and then we can always remain here for a bit to answer any unanswered questions if there are any. So Tim and Edwin, I would like to thank you both so much for showing up today and to answer all the questions and to give a bit of a more insight into the process. It's one thing for us to explain people the procedure, but it's so valuable for you as well to share your experience for the applicants, as you have been, as we say in Dutch, in the same boat. So thank you so very much both. And in that case, we will remain along here a bit more until the end of the presentation, which is at 3:30. If there are any remaining questions, and otherwise, then I will wish you all good luck with your application. If there are any questions that arise afterwards, you can contact us on comenius@nro.nl and or through the phone. So then, good luck everyone with writing.
Good luck.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.